There are 3 meetings, and if you're running the wrong 3, your team will stay stuck waiting on you. The problem was never your calendar. It's that most meetings are built around information sharing and consensus rather than decision ownership. There are 3 meetings that replace the permission bottleneck with decision architecture, and the first one takes just 15 minutes. I've diagnosed this exact failure in organizations from 40-person startups to engineering organizations running 300-person teams. Here's Priya. She runs a senior team and she spent 14 hours in meetings last week. Ouch. By the end of this video, Priya cuts that number by 2/3 without hiring anyone or working longer hours. She sat through status updates, coordination calls, and sprint planning sessions that turned into open forums. At the end of the week, the same 3 projects sat stalled in the exact same places they were on Monday morning. Her engineers sat in a 45-minute stand-up on Tuesday, reported what they did yesterday, and then returned to their desks and waited for her to approve the next step. Priya did not have a motivation problem. She didn't have a talent problem. She had a permission problem. The stand-up wasn't a stand-up, it was a permission checkpoint. And every other meeting on her calendar was doing the same job, but with a different name. The research backs this up. The average knowledge worker now spends 392 hours per year in meetings. That's 10 full work weeks before a single deliverable is produced. And 72% of those meetings fail to achieve their stated purpose. Status updates rated 35% effective. Generic syncs rated 30%. Priya's calendar isn't full of bad people. It's full of meetings designed for information sharing instead of decision ownership. So here's the trap. Leaders look at their calendar and cancel a recurring meeting, but the underlying permission bottleneck stays exactly where it's at. The work just moves into Slack, side conversations, and executive escalations that happen in private. The fix isn't elimination, it's just full replacement. 3 specific meetings with decision rights baked into the structure. You don't need to rebuild your culture, you need to rebuild your calendar. They create a simple operating rhythm where you decide first, then you coordinate, and then you improve. Here's the first meeting. It's 15 minutes twice a week, and it replaces almost every status update you're running right now. The rule is simple. You resolve only decisions that cross decision domain boundaries or meet a predefined escalation trigger. Status reports and project walkthroughs aren't allowed. If the information can be read in a document or a Slack thread, it doesn't get spoken in this room. Priya used to spend Tuesday mornings in a 45-minute engineering stand-up where everyone recapped yesterday's work. Now she runs a 15-minute decision sync on Tuesday and Thursday. The agenda is preloaded with decisions that have either escalated or sit at domain boundary. A release window approval that used to ping her is now inside the platform team's decision domain, so it's gone from her desk. A scope trade-off between product and engineering crosses domains. That goes on the agenda with 1 owner, 1 timer, and 1 call. The structural insight is this. This meeting isn't a conversation, it's a routing layer. It forces the team to sort every open issue into 2 buckets before they walk in. Either the team owns it locally and the decision never reaches Priya, or it crosses a boundary and goes on the agenda with 1 clear owner. 63% of meetings fail because they lack a clear agenda. But a decision sync can't run without a preloaded agenda because its entire purpose is the agenda. If there are no boundary crossing decisions, the meeting, it's over in 8 minutes. That isn't failure. That's the system working. Now the decision sync clears your desk, but your team still needs to know what matters this week. That's where most teams install a planning meeting that looks productive and quietly erodes ownership. The second meeting is 20 minutes, once a week. It's called the weekly Prioritization Huddle. You walk in with exactly 3 outcomes for the week. You name the competing priorities where 2 domains will fight for the same resource. And you assign 1 clear decision owner for each outcome. You don't hold a team vote or run a consensus session. You name an owner, and then you move on. The trap it replaces is a weekly planning meeting where 8 people review a board of 40 tickets, nod, and lead with no clear ownership than when they walked in. Priya used to run a 30-minute planning session with 14 people and a project board on the wall. Everyone nodded their heads. Everyone looked like they agreed. The same 3 people still came to her desk by Wednesday asking which task had actual priority. Because agreement without ownership is just consensus with nobody responsible. The redesign is very simple. Priya walks in with exactly 3 outcomes, not 40 tickets. She names the competing priorities and assigns a single decision owner for each. Shared involvement is fine, but shared ownership is where nobody's responsible. Someone has to own the final call, not because everyone else is irrelevant, but because without one clear owner, the system defaults to delay every single time. If it isn't on the list, it isn't happening this week. That's the guardrail. The meeting ends when owners are named and conflicts are surfaced. Resolution happens in the decision sink. Now the decision sink and the prioritization huddle run your week. But if you stop there, the same failures will creep back in within a month. You need a third meeting that most organizations treat as optional. But man, it is not optional at all. The third meeting is 45 minutes once a month. Most organizations skip it entirely or treat it as a nice to have. That's a mistake. It's the monthly operating retrospective. And it's an audit of your decision system, not a project retrospective about what shipped or what missed. Priya runs hers with just 3 data points. First, she lists every decision that sat unresolved for more than 48 hours. Second, she flags every escalation that should have been owned inside a domain. And third, she identifies every meeting that happened because a rule was missing, a priority tiebreaker that didn't exist, a release window policy that stayed unclear, or a scope boundary that 2 teams interpreted differently. Priya's team is one example. The pattern repeats everywhere. Most teams run retrospectives on their codes or projects, but almost nobody runs a retrospective on their decision architecture. And that's why the same bottlenecks return every single quarter. Each unnecessary escalation becomes a new trigger or a rewritten domain boundary. The retrospective does more than review the month. It redesigns the system so next month needs fewer meetings, not more. Priya leaves her retrospective with 1 or 2 guardrail changes, not a list of feelings or action items that nobody owns. Shopify, they understood this dynamic. In January 2023, they deleted 12,000 recurring meetings in a single sweep and had a projected savings of 322,000 hours in 1 year. They didn't do it by willpower or by asking people nicely to drop meetings. They did it by making the cost visible and redesigning the system that kept generating meetings. The operating retrospective is where that redesign happens continuously. It's the difference between a team that gets temporary relief for a week and a team that removes the root cause permanently. Those 3 meetings aren't isolated tools. They're a single operating rhythm. Monday sets the outcomes. Tuesday and Thursday clear the crossings. Friday redesigns the guardrail. Here's what that rhythm is actually worth. The MIT research shows why this works. When organizations cut their meeting load by 40%, employee productivity jumped by 71%. That 40% cut comes from eliminating status update culture, not from eliminating decisions. Within 30 days, you'll see fewer quick question messages, more decisions your team makes without you, and shorter delivery delays. The measurable promise is simple. Your team starts making twice as many routine decisions without you because the meetings are now built to transfer ownership instead of confirming it. Now, if you just recognized your own calendar in Priya's week, there's one more move that you should make before Monday. Pick one recurring meeting on your calendar that's currently a status update. Cancel it. Replace it with a 15-minute decision sync this Tuesday. Preload the agenda with 2 decisions that crossed your desk last week and shouldn't have. That's your first move. Drop your current weekly meeting count in the comments. I'll tell you which meeting to redesign first. If you recognize Priya's calendar this week, hit subscribe because we fix this stuff every single Monday. Define the domain, attach the decision, and now get to work.